You are listening to the Red Roots podcast.
Good morning, good morning.
Morning.
I know I'm laughing already.
Hola.
I anticipated too much. My good morning. You guys doing all right?
Yep.
Yeah, good.
Had a good week, you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You had an eventful week,
A long week.
but it was eventful, right?
Yeah.
Like you, so this past weekend, right? You had how many soccer games? I'm saying soccer for our American audience.
Just two over the weekend.
Yeah, and you won both of them.
We did. Surprisingly.
Simon, see, he's being coy. He scored the game winning goal, the game winning goals, in our church league.
He's trying not to smile right now.
No.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
No, it's not. It's so funny.
Simon
dude.
the man.
It's so funny because he had football training or soccer. I'm trying to be consistent with it, but I can't. Anyways, soccer, football training. And so when he came, he was tired, and so he didn't play the first half. And then in soccer, if you're not familiar, you can only sub once. You can't go in and out like you can in other sports. So once you're in, you got to be in. You can't go sit down. Anyway, so he came in the second half, and when you came in, you were like.
I was very tired.
Until there's a sequence of events that happen in the game. And then anyways, ball in the corner, Rudy gets it, Simon standing right in front of the goal wide open. And the team's playing defense like a bunch of kids, so they're just chasing the ball. Wherever the ball goes, if you roll the ball out with 5-year-olds, they all just chase it. You know what I mean?
That's what Jolie does.
Yeah, exactly. They all just chase it.
That's what I would do too.
And so, and they're just racing to get to the ball. And that's how this team was playing defense, which is, if you're not familiar with sports, that is not how you play defense. Because for the simple fact of you can just throw the ball over at somebody. And so he's open and Rudy gets it to him and he scores a goal. From that minute, he transforms into he's running all over the place.
Adrenaline kicks in at that point.
He's energized. And then literally 20 seconds later, the same, not exact same thing, but pretty close to the same thing happened. The ball goes in the corner. Everybody runs over, chases Rudy 5-year-olds. And he kicks the ball to Simon again and he scores another goal. I've never seen Simon this pumped. In the year and a half-ish that I've known him and spent hours and hours around him. It's not, I understand a year and a half in regular life or in U.S. life isn't a long time. But here, it's a long time. I mean, it's the equivalent of I've known you for 5 years at this point. You know what I mean? For the amount of time that we spent together and stuff like that. And so I've never seen him this excited. It's hilarious. Not because he didn't do anything funny. It's just to see him the switch flip. He was so pumped.
When Ramon came home and he told me about it, and he said he had never seen Simon so excited before. I just imagine what
Animated.
you did just now, just a smile. I'm
No,
Simon's pumped. He just smiled. But
wink, half a wink, a lazy
he
wink.
was ecstatic. He winked.
Yeah.
But no, I guess it was the real deal. I have to go watch a game.
Nah, he was. I have some video. So I video blogged it, and I'm not sure if I mean, it's our channel, so we can do whatever we want, I guess. Huh? That's the great part about it. Mm-hmm. Equally, no one watches our videos anymore. So that's but I'm thinking about making a video blog, but I gotta figure it out.
You put so much work into them. I watch them all the time. Well, your mom watches them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, people watch them. It's just not, But yeah, so anyways, so I don't know. I'm thinking about doing it, whatever. I was recording, but you can see, I've never played soccer in my life, but equally, I play sports and it more or less similar. So you can see a play developing. So what happens is I'm recording to the right, and then you don't want to watch it through the viewfinder on your phone or whatever, And so my attention goes up when I see Simon standing in front of the goal. And so I look left. And, you get tense because you want him to win, And like I'm like in my mind, like I'm like, oh, but he's right there. He's cut. Like you can see what he's cutting to. Like you know what's gonna happen. And so like, oh, see him. And so I'm watching. I'm looking left, and I'm filming right. And so in the video, like you could barely see his go because he's like off to the left of the frame, and like I just wasn't looking. Like I was,
You missed
so
his
funny.
moment, man.
So that league actually is a church league. Our church is, and there's like a church ministry league, I guess you can say, because Samaritan's Purse has a team as well.
Yeah.
There's different churches from the area have gotten together and organized the league here, and so our church is in that, which is cool because years ago our church played football. I don't know that we won any games. I wasn't here yet, but I've seen the pictures and such. But I don't know. So it's cool to kind of be at a place where we can get back into, the rhythm of not the rhythm, but just back in a place where we can participate in different events and such. So that's been cool. Equally, I hate like that inter-church culture. You know what I mean? Like because it turns, they're cheating, and this gets Garden of Gethsemane. Yeah, Gethsemane's cheating, and this is like, and it just turns into like, I was just like, who cares? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that like I'm kind of split, and that's why like they didn't want to ask, because when we were talking about putting the team in the league or whatever, like they didn't want to ask me because like first of all, it's not just my decision alone, but so I don't know why that was. But equally, like I think they kind of sensed what my answer, what my opinion was going to be to an extent. I like the idea of it, but I just don't like how church culture can become so isolated and preoccupied with itself and not in a healthy way. Because there's a healthy way, love one another, right? And like all this, that's healthy way. Then the unhealthy way is just like gossipy, keeping up with who's who, like complaining about the other. It's just, anyways. So we'll see how it goes.
So far, it's been good.
Yeah.
So far, the event's been good. There hasn't been any animosity or cheating or any of this.
No fighting.
Well,
no fighting.
There's cheating going on, but
nothing major. That
it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I guess the rule is. Well, I know the rule is people have to go to your church.
Yeah, there'll definitely be teams that have got players that don't go to the church.
And the elders sign off on it because it's just about, it's supposed, the idea is great. It's about churches competing with other churches, like in a sport. So it's not like competing with other churches and how many members that type of stuff. It's just fun. It's supposed to be like promoting like camaraderie and things between the churches and kind of creating a safe environment for people from church to be able to play, because sometimes in other places it's just not a place that's conducive for Christian growth. We can say that. And so, I don't know. But then, like people want to win. Me and Miguel were talking about this the other day. It's because he wasn't complaining about it, because it's not that big of a deal. But he's talking about how, someone from our church suggested that we go find some players. And I was like, no, like, first of all, this is church league soccer. Like, guys, not who cares? We want to win, right? But like, it's not that recruiting people and all that type of stuff is silly. And then she's like, Rudy's like, well, such and such doesn't go to the church. Well, he's come before and like stuff like that. And I was like, let me stop you right there, because that's not okay. Like, forget football. Like, that is the worst habit that we can get into of just like, what are we willing to risk to win a game that means nothing? Like, it's just, and that's the frustrating point for me, I think, is churches are literally putting your integrity on the line so that you can win a soccer game. You don't even, it would equally be bad if you won money, but you don't even win that. At least you have, you know what I mean? At least you can be like, man, we just really needed a new thing, you know what I mean? Or whatever, a new stage or new chairs or something. At least you could have that, still wrong, but that argument. Now it's like, you're putting your integrity on the line for what? Just to win? So, like, it's just silly and just, I don't know. So that part of the culture, church culture, not believing culture, but church culture, just kind of annoys me. Anyways, so today what we want to talk about, besides that, is us. It's a serious topic. I guess all the topics are serious for the most part, I guess, except for when we do Q&A. Those are not. But yeah, it's. Ooh, if I don't knock my cappuccino.
I worked so hard
on my wife. Yeah, I almost knocked it on you. But yeah, what we want to talk about today is mental health while on the field, and like how to take care of your mental health, and like what are those challenges and stuff like that. I think this is a really important topic that is not talked about enough in the missionary sphere. What is that a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not talked about enough.
It's not talked about enough in the Christian sphere. Like,
that's very true.
In the church.
We throw, like, I'll just say this real quick, I guess. It's like we tend to throw that into like lack of faith category. Mm-hmm. But equally, if someone breaks their arm, we don't throw that into lack of faith category. We send them to the doctor. Yeah. But if someone has emotional, some type of emotional struggles or challenges or schizophrenia or, these are like legit things. All of them are overcomable through Christ. We get that. But most of these things can help with counseling and specifically Christian counseling for us and really keeping us image of God, mission, so on and so forth. But we don't address them. And so anyways, you guys, what are your, I guess, I don't even know how I want to ask the question. Or I guess, first of all, have you struggled in any way with mental health? We're not talking about, it doesn't have to be as deep as like I had a diagnosis and I was submitted into obviously, or admitted. You don't submit people, you admit people. You're admitted into a, psychiatric ward. It doesn't have to be that. Like, when was this, Simon? We didn't even know about it. But just, sometime that you're struggling with something, has there been a specific time when it's like a major?
I guess you would then have to define like what would you say is struggling with a mental health issue, because I could just be sad, or I could just be frustrated, or need a day off away from people. So and
that's a good point too, though, because while we don't talk about mental health a lot in Christian circles, those of us, I'll say us, that are starting to, I want to be very careful what I'm saying, because I don't want it to come across wrong. It's not that I care about it, but I want to communicate well what my thoughts. We create this identity based on mental illness, and so we camp there, and that's not okay. Identifying it, or recognizing it, accepting it, seeking healing, counseling, whatever. Those are all different things, but just to make this bubble of mental health, and all, because it never ends. And that's something I've noticed through observation. Is it's like, and I'm not saying the issue should end. That's not what I'm saying. But it just never gets better. It never progresses in 30. And it just, because it becomes like, and maybe it's because we feel like, it doesn't feel like it's going to get better. So, but it almost becomes like this weird, and not to everybody, obviously, but this weird badge of identity, like, mental health. And it becomes all consuming. Like, that's all we talk about, And it's like, okay, well, this is probably, a little too far. Not to say we don't talk about it, but let's work on confronting this and growing out of this instead of just identifying ourselves by this. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so I think there's that's a good point, is identifying what it is. I think to an extent it's subjective though. Subjective. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and we talked about this when we were writing the devotional and stuff, is like, I think if I lose my best friend in a car wreck, that is going to affect me in some way, shape, or form, negatively, right? If Simon, which he did lose his dog, she didn't die, she's gone, but he's not upset. But if you had like a loving dog and a dog was ran over by a car, the tendency for me is to, and this is why we don't talk about it a lot, is say, "What's wrong, Simon?" He said, "Well, my dog was ran over by a car." You're sad because of that? Right. I lost my, you know what I mean? I lost my best friend in a car crash. We're talking about people, and you're upset about animals. And like, so it's self-centered, you know what I mean? It becomes centered on us and who we are. So it's like, okay, that doesn't mean that he's not struggling with loss or mourning, just because I wouldn't struggle with loss or mourning. You know what I mean? If I lost my dog like that, I wouldn't. It stinks, but like, okay, well, what's on Netflix? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to stop my world, but that doesn't make me stronger or better, or doesn't mean that he shouldn't struggle with that because I didn't struggle with that. You know what I mean? And so I think we have to be very cautious there. But so I think it's subjective. I think, and again, there's a line that I don't know where it is, of like recognizing and respecting that you're really hurt by the loss of your dog or your whatever. It goes as far as you want. So there was a lady at my church, like her plants. She had plants all in her house, and when one would die, like she would be broken.
Aww.
See, so I feel like
That was terrible.
that you're laughing.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm laughing.
So I do feel like we need to draw a line somewhere of like, okay, but so that's my point is I don't know where that line is of like where it's like, okay, let's take a break and let's really focus on, you know what I mean? Let's be grateful for what I don't know how you would even say it, but equally in that same space, there's a disrespectfulness of like plants, you know what I mean? Or whatever, like you need to get over it. Cause honestly, she does need to get over losing because that's not a big deal. That period, like honestly. However, I don't think that's the way, like maybe helping her get through it. James 1:2-4, Romans 5:3-5. Whenever trouble comes your way, count it all joy. You get a chance to grow and your endurance grows. So maybe instead of telling her she shouldn't feel like that, because she does feel like that, we should help her through it and help her endurance grow so that she can kind of, and I don't want to be like superior. That's not what, but grow past being upset about plants. And then at least let's get to, I feel like the line maybe is pets. I think like from pets, you can be sad. It just is what it is. If your goldfish dies, like maybe, I don't know, man. It just gets really sticky and really weird. I don't know where that line is though, of telling people like, hey, that's not,
And I think that's why so many people just avoid it, because it is so tricky to work out. Because a lot of times for mental health or if someone's that is struggling, it will be just like the one thing that you see, that's actually just the tiny straw that's broken their back.
That's true.
And actually they've got 90 other things that's been going on over the last 5 years that they haven't dealt with, or that no one's noticed, or that haven't been confronted. And so now all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, okay, let's take the lady with her plants, for example. I don't know her, so I don't know this. So I'm making this situation up. But
maybe
it would be easy for us to go, oh, why does she keep getting upset about losing plants? And so you're like, oh, I don't want to get deeper into that. She just needs to get over it or whatever. But you go in and then you find out that she's like been struggling with grief for the last 5 years, or everything she's ever loved, she's
loneliness.
Lost. She's really, loneliness. And now all of a sudden, because you've entered into that, you now have to confront all of that with her and walk that out with her. And I think it's just easier for people to say, oh, we'll be praying for you.
Yeah.
And then walk away and leave it. And I think that's been the church's response to mental health for as long as I can remember, until about now, where people have started to take it more seriously. But I think it is because it is so tricky. It's so different for every single person. Something that affects you might not affect me, but now we have to walk through that together.
Absolutely.
And so I think people really you just don't know where to start with it. Don't know where to begin.
That's I told Ramon in one of our chats that like when I think about walking through life and through difficulties with other people, it really makes me think about the verse that says that your faith without works is dead, because we're always so very quick to have faith in our prayer time that God is going to work this out for you. But then it makes me think about our works, like what are we doing to help them along this journey? I know that at the very, I guess, the foundation of the scripture is not that, it's a lot bigger, like your faith is in God. But just that when I think about our works, so many times we think about works that lead to a result that we want, personally. But like what you were saying, like we don't want to enter into that because we don't want to have to walk them through that process of grief or healing. But a lot of times we do fail our brothers and sisters in that we're just going to stop at praying for you, and then leave them still in their isolation and leave them still in their struggling and loneliness,
And that even goes further, because oftentimes we don't pray for them.
Yeah, we just say we will, right?
Yeah, and if we do, it's like once, and then it's just over, because we don't really care. Like, and I'm not saying we don't care about the person. We just feel like that issue shouldn't be a big issue. So I'm not going to waste a bunch of time praying on it. It's not that important to me, but it's like you said, it's like, it's how selfish we are, right? It's like, I don't know, you're going through this. If you're going through this, then we're going through this. There is no you and me. Oh, what are you going through? Your dog is your dog got smashed in the street by a city bus. like, okay, well then, like we're in this together. And you find yourself in peculiar situations, but like that's literally what Jesus was constantly, is dealing with people's peculiar situations that he chose to identify with. He's perfect. Like, he like God sends him to identify with us and identify whatever. But like he's here on purpose. You know what I mean? So it's not like he's just another whatever. And so how should we confront situations that we don't necessarily? We dive in and lock arms with these people and walk with them through. And there's probably going to be some comical times, honestly. But equally, it doesn't matter like what I think or whatever. What does the word say, and how can I love my brother or sister through this? Like that's just not easy, but simple. It is very simple, And I think I'm just thinking of like all the missionaries that we've met over the years. This is something that I would say 100% of missionaries that I can think of off the top of my head have struggled with or are struggling with with mental health issues.
Yeah.
This is the number one reason for people leaving the field. It comes out in other ways, right? But it's equally like this feeling of isolation or feeling inability to connect with people, or connect with people around you and stuff like that. Loneliness, like all that type of stuff. Grief if something happened, and like you're saying, is like a lot of times it's not the thing that happened that was the straw that break the camel's back or whatever. And like so, there's been a sequence of things that have happened to bring the person to that point, but we're just now seeing the results of that. Yeah. And so sometimes when people, like specifically in missions, when they leave the field or when they break, they're like, "What? Why did that make you break down?" And like again, it goes back to what we were just talking about. But equally, like it's like, oh, okay, well, it rained 3 days in a row. Why does that break? You know what I mean? Like I can't take the rain anymore. But the problem is too, I think sometimes that person believes that's what's breaking their back as well. And so maybe it starts with just us needing to be real with ourselves. You know what I mean? Like allow the Holy Spirit to really examine my heart. Like search me, reveal to me where I'm not depending on you and the community that you sent me to. Because this goes back to what we talked about last week. This is the need to be in be a part of a church. Not, we're here Sunday, every other Sunday, some different place. No. Be a part of a church community and allow yourself to be transparent and vulnerable so that people can reach you, speak into your life, and read you. Because this is just such a long conversation. I'm trying to like streamline what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But to where they can be there to be able to help you and pick up when something's not okay. Because if people don't know you well enough, if they're not around you, they don't know if something's not okay. They may think you may be quiet today, but they don't really. But that's a part of exposing yourself to people on a consistent basis, is because they start to understand who you are and they get to know you as a person. So it's not just for fun. They know your character traits. They know your habits and whatever. They pick up on that. And so when something's off, then they're like, oh, wait, something is wrong. And now they can, because you see so many people, they're like, well, they feel like no one cares. When you're going through any type of mental health struggle, you feel like you're on an island. You feel like no one cares. And that's the enemy partially too, right? Telling you like that you're by yourself, no one understands you or whatever. But equally, like that's where you go to with that, is you feel like you're by yourself and no one cares. And then, and so you're like, no one even checked up on me. Like how many times have we heard this going through talking in private talks with people at church after they've gone through something or after they're at rock bottom? Well, just no one checked up on me. Well, it's like, yeah, there is a part of that. The church needs to be involved in checking up on people, but man, you don't even come around. Like we don't know you. So it's not that we don't know you, so we don't check up on you. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm saying no one even picked up that there was something wrong because you never opened up yourself enough for them to understand who you are and to even be able to realize that something's off. And so exposing yourself and really resting in and embracing the community that Jesus that God has placed us in, regardless whether it's in Bolivia, in the UK, whatever, it doesn't matter. God's people are God's people. And so I think that's a big part of that as missionaries is exposing ourselves, not exposing, submitting ourselves to the community in that way and confessing our sins one to another. And again, going back to stop trying to be the hero. Yeah. Always trying to come and minister to everybody, looking for stages and microphones. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way, but that's literally what we do. I'm a missionary. I'm here to minister.
Okay. Now, I do want to be a little bit careful because I know this is not your intention. You're not saying this at all, but I also don't want to make the person struggling with mental health
No. Well, I mean, that's why it's a long conversation.
Right. I mean, you're not the victim, but you're not also the full person to blame for your...
Yeah. And so I'm not even talking about a person. I'm talking about the culture of what it's created. It's specifically in missions is we have this culture to where we just, we isolate ourselves to an extent. And my point isn't it's your fault you're struggling with mental health. My point is man...
There's a way to manage it.
Yeah, or it's not even just a way to manage it. God has sent provision for that. You're living in provision for that. You have to embrace it because it's terrible to go through stuff.
Yeah. And even when you do have a lot of people around you and people who do care, there's still just this dark cloud that will tell you that you are still alone because nobody understands what you're going through. And so it is very important to stay surrounded by people, even though you don't physically want to be and you just want everybody to go away because, being honest, that's just how you feel. Not because you're ashamed, not because you're embarrassed. It's because I don't want to deal with people right now during this time, But to understand that this is exactly why God gave us community, is to, like you said, submit yourself to the body of Christ, to the church, because that's what He's given us this family of believers for, partially.
Because I think the message for us a lot of times is embrace it. Just embrace it that you have the issue. And I get what people are trying to say. But no, we say that without saying embrace community. And so that's wrong because then that's what becomes an identifier. And so so at that point, now you've identified by this issue. And when someone tries to speak to you, they don't understand. No, there's a doctor and such that said this, and look, I'm trying to love you. You know what I mean? And if I love you, loving you doesn't, and no point does loving, long term at least, especially when you're in problems, loving never looks like leaving people alone. Mm-hmm. I love you so much that I'm going to leave you alone and let you not grow forever. No, that's not what love does. Now, love is patient, so it's not going to be no, we're talking about, there are moments for that. But it's no, we need to sit down and talk. But love definitely is pursuing growth and pursues growth, not just in me, but pursues growth in you. And so that you can grow past this. But biblical love seeks understanding and guidance of the Holy Spirit too, so that we are sensitive to the right times and whatever. But again, this is only achieved through being a part of community. You cannot show up. You cannot have gone to a place and all you've said is that when people say, how are you? Good. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm good. Praise the Lord. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm blessed. You say that for 5 years, and now all of a sudden you think that when you're going through a legit mental struggle, now you're going to come and just open yourself up. There's a possibility, but it's not realistic. So we're not firemen. We don't just call when there's an issue. We expose ourselves to community in good times, build that trust and relationship so that it's so fluid and natural. When we're struggling with something, we say, hey, guys, I really need you to pray with me. And tell people what you need from them, too. It's hey, I need you to really be this for me right now. Yeah. Now,
I think that's really important. And I never thought to just tell people what you need. You always want people to pick up on what you need, but just communicate. This is what I need. Because there are a lot of times when I feel, and possibly a lot of Christians feel, that we go to the church and we take our need to them, and it's just, you just leave feeling man, I exposed myself and it was for no reason. I feel not betrayed, but let down. I wasn't encouraged. They prayed for me, but then they moved on. Almost like the conversation we had you talked about a small group.
That's exactly that's where I was going.
No, go ahead, you can go.
No. I was just going that direction.
Oh, when we talked about how, Black people are part of a majority white church, or and then they try to open up about their feelings of being Black, and and their experiences in the church and just in life in general. And it's just like, okay, we'll pray for you. And you're just like, I didn't get what I needed from you. And I don't know, maybe that's because we don't know what we need sometimes, but I feel like sometimes. A lot of times we do know what we need. I need you to check up on me, once a week. Just say hi. How am I doing? I don't know.
But now that's what I was going to say. Is I want to talk about the person first, but then go to the deeper issue of, not deeper issues, equally wrong, because one feeds the other, of churches being dismissive of this stuff, being dismissive of everybody's dismissive until they're going through it. But the issue is I don't know if it's pride or arrogance or whatever. I dismiss your issues, his issues, and whoever else's issues. You just need to get over it. But then I go through something, and I'll just like cuddle into either the extreme is I want everybody to give me attention. Well, you guys are going to be like, which is wrong, but understandable at the same time. You're not going to help me because you're like, this guy, you wasn't there for me. Like, you'll be fine. Get over it, remember? Or on the other side of it, I thought this was such a phony thing for so long that I'm in denial of it myself. And so that leads to me, just like basically hiding it or thinking that I can just willpower or faith myself over, which in that context of faith, it's the same thing as willpower. It's not faith in Jesus. That's faith in me. We can say we're faithing our way through. That's faith in self and your own ability to overcome it. And it ends in failure every time, whether it's in 10 days, 10 hours, 10 years, or it's going to end in failure one way or the other. And so we don't have a culture that is, in most church cultures, we don't have a safe, I don't mean safe where you can live in your sins, but a safe place to where I can come and say, hey, I'm really struggling mentally. And somebody can be like, hey, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't relate to that, but it doesn't matter because I'm here with you. I'm your brother in Christ. Let's pray. God, I don't know. We don't even know what to say, but we know who you are, and we know that, and consistently do not like, yeah, amen.
One and done.
Have a good day. Let me know how it goes. Like, no. Like, it's pursuit. It's a consistent pursuit, and it's pursuing one another. That's what the community is or whatever. And I think in times like this, I mean, it should be all the time, but in times like this, sometimes we realize that it's not too late, but it is too late for like, oh, now we want to start, you know what I mean? Like we don't realize how important community is until we need it so bad, until it's the only thing that we could possibly have to lean on. And it's not too late at that point, but it's hard to build it because when you're going through these issues, you're not completely in your right mind. Like you're not thinking all the way logically. You're affected by emotions or, whatever it is that you have. And so that's not the ideal time to build a relationship, with people, because the signals are going to be weird and mixed and no one's going to understand. And but the relationship is supposed to be built already. So now when you're going through this tough time, it's like, it's fluid through that, And I'm not giving the answer, but I'm like, this is a biblical way to confront these issues that everybody deals with and struggles with, and like equally, this is real stuff. Like this is stuff that people like. I know there's a lot of Christians that think like it's just made up or whatever, but equally, most of those people are ones that when something bad happens, they're just crushed and broken and suicidal or want to give up on their faith and stuff like that. But why do you think you feel like that? Because there's a mental health is a real issue. It's a real thing that needs to be confronted a biblical way and through community,
Yeah, I know. Like when my father passed away, I found it at the same time, right? When people were saying they wanted to come by, and give their condolences, I was super annoyed. I don't want to see anybody right now. But it meant so much to me to have people just sit there in their silence. They didn't know what to say, didn't try to, make me laugh and try to cheer me up or fix things for me. They just let me sit on the couch and stare at the wall if that's what I wanted to do at the moment, or they will come and pray with me and just chat and share about times when they've lost loved ones, not to encourage me, but to let me know that they know what I'm going, they know the pain that I'm going through. And so even though at the time we feel like we don't want community because I don't know, being alone in your pain is not comforting at all. So I don't know, it's like this weird psychological thing that convinces you that being alone, cuddled up in the bed in the dark under the blankets is better than sitting down with people who love you and care for you. Like even saying that out loud, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
But it's almost like we want to protect and hide this shameful moment of weakness, like almost like it's a character flaw when
trying to get over it, I guess.
Trying to get over it. Yeah.
Which is something that, because like death is a special one. Like it's not death within and of itself, but it's what that causes the wave of reactions and emotions that can cause. It's like, because death is not something that we are designed to deal with. Adam and Eve weren't like, God wasn't like, all right, guys, you got about 100 years, enjoy it. Like it wasn't what the idea. Death is a result of sin. And so we were not designed and built to deal with death. And so when that comes, it makes us like we can't deal with it. We can't one way or the other. Now there are some cases when we've gotten callous to it, like when older people pass away. It's not that it's not sad. It's just that we start expecting, which just shows how fallen this world is when we start expecting death. Like, that's something that was never, anyways. But even that sometimes it's just hard, you know. And it plays with, it's crazy how deep that can affect you and stuff. It wasn't even death for me. My biggest and deepest struggle with this stuff was like, it culminated in death when my brother passed away. When he was diagnosed with leukemia, like he was sick for 10 months, like getting treatment, whatever, all that. Like that whole time I was like just slowly becoming jacked up is what we say. Like just like really drifting I guess is the best word. Drifting mentally. The issue is, for me at least, to my knowledge, I hadn't really had any mental health challenges or moments in my life. I was raised well, you know. We were poor at times, but I didn't even know it. You know what I mean? Because my parents, like, that wasn't my parents never exposed me to. They were never like, hey, we don't have a lot of money. Like, that was never a thing. So I just was living life, you know? Yeah. So, like, I didn't have those stressors or whatever, which I'm, you know, blessed and privileged to have grown up like that. And so, you know, I'd gone through different stuff. My grandfather passed away. My cousin passed away. Like, so I had experienced death before. But to watch this suffering and to be so far away, because we lived overseas, of someone so close to me that I spoke to every day, it just started shattering me. And so I slowly started drifting, but you don't know. That's the thing about drifting. There's driving and there's drifting. Drifting, you don't like, drifting is a boat term when you're in the sea and whatever, and it takes your boat. The thing is, because your motor's not on, you don't feel like you're moving. Yeah. And next thing you know, you look up and you're like, how did I get to Hawaii? I was in LA, you know what I mean? Like, how did I get to, like, this is crazy. Like, so for me, it was like this slow drifting and I didn't know, and this is a hard thing too. I didn't know what mental health, like, that doesn't happen to me. Yeah. That's just crazy people. Like, I know this is not true, but that's legit how I didn't know. I was just ignorant about any of it. And so for me, I'm tough. I have faith, whatever. Let me just live on with my life, you know? And next thing you know, like, I started getting sick and then my brain, like, I was talking to my friend about this the other day because he was going through some stuff and we were talking, I was sharing with him, and me and you have been talking about it more lately. I didn't talk about it for 4 or 5 years. I mean, till really, really recently. Because I got, even looking back, I'm just now getting a grip on what was happening. You know what I mean? And like, so I drifted so much that, and I was just it just did a number on me mentally. So much so that it was causing physical symptoms. And then that was just worse. Because like now I'm feeling this weird stuff. My legs are tingling. And I'm convinced, like, he's sick, so I'm probably sick. Like, I know how ridiculous that sounds. It doesn't even, scientifically doesn't make sense. But like, that's where this is the issue. That's where my mind was.
No, I remember he legit thought he was sick because we were in the Dominican Republic at the time, and he had flown back to the United States
to get tested
on 2 separate occasions.
Yeah,
I believe he was tested for
everything.
Kinds of things. Yeah,
because I was legit feeling this stuff, and it was like, you just couldn't convince me. It wasn't because me they were like, well, it may be because like the doctor was great, like, and she was like. She never was like, well, it may be in your head. She never said anything like that. She's like, hey, I want you to talk to somebody after they ran some tests and stuff. And she's like, you just always seem nervous. And I wasn't nervous. I was anxious. Now I know. And so She's like, she's like, are you doing all right today? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, in my mind, I'm normal today. And she's like, well, what's been going on with you? And this is just the doctor, like, and I'm like, oh, just life stuff, blah, blah, blah. Again, I guess I'm just trying to brush it off. And then she's like, oh, you're going through a lot. I was like, tough guy, right? Like, I'm a man of faith. Like, it's not a lot. Nothing's too big for my God. You know what I mean? And like, just I didn't say that or think that, but apparently that's what I believe because that's the way I was operating from a position that as if that was the reality of my life. And she's like, hey, I want you to talk. Would you be open to talking to somebody? I'm like, we talking right now. Like, what you mean? Like, my mom's outside. Like, I could talk. Like, she's like, oh, we have and she didn't want to say, I always get them confused, psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever one.
You saw a psychologist.
Which one can prescribe medicine?
Oh, psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you saw?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was like, I guess. And I'm thinking like, and I'm not dumb. So I'm starting to pick up like, does she think that this is in my mind? Like, no, this is not. And so I talked to the lady and we did like 2 sessions. We're talking. And she's looking and she started, to write and stuff. And I'm just like,
what you writing now?
yeah. I'm looking like, wait, I ain't say that. No. Don't try to put that on me. There ain't no diagnose. Like, no. Like, 'cause mental health is like, it's almost like a scarlet letter in your mind, the way that we view it. Means you lack faith. It means that you're weak. And it means that's the way that we view it, which is all wrong. And so into all these sessions, she's like, you're really dealing with some deep, deep anxiety issues. She says, I would really recommend that you get on medication. I said, nah, I don't need medication for this. Like, I'm still in denial about this stuff, I'm like, just run the test and tell me what's wrong because I feel like this. And she doesn't say like you're imagining it. She actually said the opposite. She's like, you're not imagining what's going on. She's like, but what happens is sometimes when your brain, like, it's so powerful that your mental state affects your physical health, like, period. And she's like, so yes, you do have health issues that you feel this, you do feel that. It's not your brain is sending the wrong signal. That's legit. You're feeling that and it's happening. But why is it happening? Is because, and that, honestly, her explanation helped a little bit. And I was like, well, went through all this stuff, and I'm trying to this is a long story, and believe it or not, I'm making it very short. I didn't want medicine. I didn't want any of that. She's like, depression. She's like, you're actually pretty depressed as well. I would say, and she's like, I assume if you don't want for anxiety, you definitely don't want medicine for depression. I'm like, nope, I do not want that. And she was like, well, maybe you could seek some type of help and counseling and whatever. And like, it didn't bother me, but that just was like not a thing that I'm not dealing with that. It's just that, it's just life is rough. Just gonna deal with it. Yeah. And just time went on, man, and like things got worse for me, and worse and worse. And then my brother passed away, and it was like, that was just it. Like, you know what I mean? Like that turned. I right before that, maybe a month before that, I lost it. And not like looking at like, I like ducks. What's that cat? Like, it wasn't like, you know what I mean? Like, give me a helmet because I'm going to jump off or something. It wasn't like that. The problem wasn't that I lost it. The problem was that I lost it and didn't realize that I lost it. And not even just didn't realize it, would not accept that I lost it. Because in my mind, I was thinking straight. But there was so much going on. There were so many decisions I was making in life that were like, now I'm like, yo, like, what were you? It's a terrible decision. Like it shows me now that my mind was not on the right track. And like, but in that time, we went to the church we went to in the Dominican Republic. Man, they were so loving and patient. Our friends that lived downstairs, the Gostons, loving and patient and just speaking into my life, equally seeing, like for them specifically, they like him, because like me and him were like, we were close. We hung out every day. He lived downstairs. We did everything together. They helped us out a ton. Now looking back, I can see by the questions he would ask me, I could see that he saw that there's something wrong. Obviously, he knew about my brother, so it's not like, oh, somebody's sick in your... Like, he knew that. But he realized that there's something off mentally with him. And not as an insulting type way. But like, so he would ask me these questions that would borderline confuse me because I could logically answer the question, but equally compare that to what I'm doing or what I'm operating. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Like, But then I didn't accept it until we moved back to Bolivia, which was... That's a whole thing within and of itself of like, the reason we came back, anyways, just not, God used it still, but just not thinking straight, crazy. And another time we'll get into all those things, whatever. God's faithfulness even in hard times. And I guess for me, that was the big takeaway from it, is like, man, God is faithful even in hard, through all that time. But it was through like a slow process of recognizing, accepting, and talking to people, and talking about it, talking to Rudy for hours on end. And it's not talking to Melinda, but it's different. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like confessing these different, and the more I confess, the more I realize, like, oh, there's something wrong. You know what I mean? And like on and on and on, and this slow process of accepting that there is an issue and making myself vulnerable and transparent to the people around me in Christ, not just random people, but to people around me in Christ, but equally to God. Because I'm recognizing that, then it opens me up to like, okay, God, like do your work in me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Instead of operating at the regular level, and just slowly through that, like restored me back. And for me, like I just got like mentally healthy, like moving to Trinidad. Like that was like, and there's stressors in life and stuff like that. But like, I was like, man, like I said all that to say, first, like that's my experience, and I think a lot of people probably don't know that. Yeah. But like, I don't know if you knew that, like all like the stuff or whatever. But it's very important because stuff happens, and if we don't see, and this is where I go back to the beginning part of like something happens, and you can't be like, oh, I'm anxious, depressed, because it's not necessarily what's. I don't know why I did all this motion, but like, yeah. But like, that's not necessarily what's going to happen all the time. But definitely being awake to or open to the idea that something can go wrong with you like that, and like again, being in the practice of being of being vulnerable to the people around you before something like that happens, so you don't get into this weird thing. You feel like this weird cycle. Because that was my thing. It was like a cycle. Like, and that's what they told me. Because the doctor came in after and talked back to the psychiatrist and were like, hey, this is a cycle. And so it's really hard to break. And like, I'm going to be straight up with you. It's like, it's really hard to break because you're having the anxiety issues that are causing physical issues. The physical issues cause more anxiety issues. When we tell you that there's nothing physically wrong or nothing we can do, that causes more. And then you have anything that happens in life contributes. He's like, it's really hard to get off this cycle. She's like, that's why we're recommending medication and stuff. And I was like, nah, bro, I'm not taking medication because I'm not crazy, right? Like that was my reasoning in myself and really denial and stuff. But I think had I been more open to having more people in my life and talking and confessing intentionally to more people and stop I am a leader. That's just in life. I am a leader. I'm a leader at our church. I'm a leader in whatever, in the community, whatever. And I think my tendency, at least, and I think a lot of people's tendency, is we identify ourselves by only that. And so I got to lead. I'm this. Well, but if I'm leading by example, how is it going to, how does that work with me confessing and whatever? No. Like really identify, like understand your position and understand your position in life, but understand your literal position too. It's like you are a person just like everybody else, and you are a person who needs community. You're a person who, God has placed people around you for this very reason and very purpose, to be able to like help you and lift you up in this, And I think our church was great during this time. It was me that wasn't as open and wasn't like, and it's hard to pursue something you don't know is there,
Yeah. I think also another key thing, God gave us this community, to help us through the difficult times, no doubt. But one thing I found specifically really helpful for me was that in times when I even feel like community is not helping me, or when I don't want to be around people, is to quiet my thoughts and quiet my mind and just sit and worship. It sounds really spiritual, and I'm not a super duper, this will solve all my issues kind of thing, but just full surrender to God in a quiet space. Physically, scientifically, it's proven when you slow your mind down.
Well, that's what meditation is, right? That's what people,
Yeah, so that's why I say take deep breaths. If you're angry, count to 10. Slow down your thoughts, then you calm down. It has a physical effect on your body, you know. But that's what I found in worship, is just like surrendering my doubts, my struggles, my fears, which is really hard, because a lot of times I feel like I do this in this moment and then I feel peace, but then I walk away and I'm like, okay, I need that again.
Pick it back up.
Yeah, come like, never mind.
It's like leave your worries at the door, but what they don't put is like, don't pick them up again on your way out. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
I'm like, oh, that was a good moment that I needed this week, and I was like, let me go back to the usual, you know. But I found that just that is something that we forget to be intentional about. It's like we say, oh, you don't have faith to do this, and you don't have faith that God is going to work, God is going to move, that's why you're stressed out. But that we actually don't take the time to just say, God, I'm hurting, I don't know what to do, and help me, you know. That he is everything you need, right? We're nothing without him. So he's our essence, right? I got that from a show I was watching with Jolie. Essence. It was, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, are you as lost as I am? All right.
In him we live, we move, and we have our being, right? And so we oftentimes forget that, God, you have everything that I need. And so we forget to go to our source, even though we say, I need you, God, in this very moment, you know. But we can't just do community and forget to seek God for what we need from him, because he is peace, right? But also we can't just isolate ourselves and seek God and seek peace without seeking the family and community that he's provided for us to get through this, you know. So I think they go hand in hand, and it's what the enemy uses to keep us depressed and unhealthy and dependent on medicine or dependent on ourselves, is to isolate us, and that isolation leads to loneliness, and that loneliness leads to like deception, thinking that God has left us also, you know. And so it's like, where are you, God? You must not exist. And then now you lose your faith in who God really is, because you allowed you didn't do both of the things that God has given us, you know. He's given us faith. It says that we can ask him, you know. Yeah. And then he's given us community. So we just need to remember, not forget that we have everything that we need.
Yeah. And I mean, and no one is saying that it's an easy process or a short process. I think, but just really leaning into these people that are around you. I think that's just, and I'm not, just to be clear, I'm not saying that solves all the issues. What I'm saying is you don't have to be alone. Yeah. And I think going back to, obviously in missions, I think that's the big thing. So a lot of times we think we're alone, and that we create this stature of what we do to where the only people that are going to understand me are missionaries, because no one else has moved overseas. And we're just creating a layer to isolate ourselves and just basically looking for a way to excuse it. Because honestly, in most of the situations you go through in your life, most of the people around you don't understand what you're going through. But what they do understand is and this is what's important to be around the believers, is they have faith in Jesus. And they know that even though I don't identify with it, Jesus identifies with it. And so let's seek him together. Let me love you even if I don't understand it. Let's seek him together in this. How can I advocate for you, speak up for you, pray with you. With you is a big thing as well. Not just for you from my house, but pray with you, checking up on you. Like, just let me be present for you and with you through this time. And well, what if this time is 6 years? Well, then I will be present with you for 6 years. I mean, obviously beyond that, but specifically in the situation, you know. I think that's a big deal. And there's two sides to that, and that's why I was saying earlier, there's two sides to it. One is individual, not responsibility, but embrace the community. But I'm not talking about the person who's dealing with mental health issues. I'm talking about everybody. Because when you do deal with these issues, it's not a big deal to confess that you're dealing with these. Not even confessing sin, sometimes it is, but just confessing that you're struggling with stuff, you know. But on the other side, like pastors, leaders, elders, churches in general, be very intentional about creating an environment to where we don't laugh and mock people for going through stuff or for responding to stuff the way that we wouldn't have responded to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
While equally having expectations for people, you know what I mean? Like to not overvalue material things or whatever, but equally, if it does crush them, to not just turn the off switch off, but walk with them through that so that they can kind of grow past, being so crushed by, I literally spilled my milk. I can say, don't cry over spilled milk, or I can be like, man, he's really hurt by that. This is like you were saying, we have to dig in and get dirty. All right, let me walk him through, pray him through, which seems babyish and weird, over his hurt over literally spilled milk. But equally, that should alarm us as leaders to the need for discipleship in this, to like, okay, this is not something that should be devastating to us. Really nothing should be devastating to us, which is the whole point of suffering. We faith through suffering, we grow, so that really there's nothing that can, and that's the idea of it. That's why God allows suffering, is because it grows our dependency on Him, and through hard times, and then it gets to the point to where nothing can shake us. Yeah, heck, we can be hurt and cry, but nothing can shake us. And so just understanding that if, like, man, he spilled a little bit of milk on the floor, if he's crushed by that, yes, he should not be crushed by that, but equally he is crushed by that. So let me be present with him through this, and let me wake up to the need for discipleship and growth in his life, and let me commit to that for him. It's a long process. It's not a quick, let me pray for you real quick, brother. It's not that. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's a very tough thing. And I mean, I don't think, we're not trying to give solutions here. Yeah. I mean, I guess a little bit, but not, we're not trying to, it's not an answer, but equally there's something, I guess this is what I'm trying to say. There's something that we should be doing that we are not doing. Yes, us as a group or as a church, for people who are struggling with this stuff in secret and we don't even know, which already reveals that there's an issue, but equally for the person who belongs to a church, loves the church, as part, equally being around long enough for people to see who you are and pick up on your whatever, So I don't know. That's my.
Yeah, I know that I have family members who have struggled with mental health and like actually diagnosed, by doctors, and are supposed to be consistently seeking help for it within the clinical aspect. They don't recommend church. Just not that, I don't know.
Just go sing.
Yeah.
Go sing. Lift your hands. Just lift your hands. Give it all to Jesus. Which, there's a part of that, but equally, like, that's not, now, any point does Jesus send someone to the tabernacle to sing, to overcome their sickness?
Right. But one of the things that hurts me is to love. When you love the person going through something, it hurts you, And so when I saw my mom going through, just some mental health issues, and she's very open about it, and tried to be with this group of women that she has for many years sought community with, just kind of push her away. It's like, you're still struggling with that? Mm-hmm. Like, we can't do anything for you. Like, and basically just abandoned her, like left her to herself because they got tired of my mom not having enough faith to get through her mental health issues. Yeah. And it frustrated me because I'm just like, my mom feels like those years are just a waste. You don't really love her. You don't really care for her. Mm-hmm. And based on your actions, she's true. You don't really love her. You don't really care for her. So then my question is, what was your motivator for going through the few steps that you did take with her to, I don't know, maybe you felt it was your obligation or duty as a good Christian to pray for her a couple times, but then you get frustrated. So it's like, then your faith is not in God if you're frustrated that my mom isn't further along in her walk in this process, And so I don't know, we got to be careful to not make people feel isolated and like it's hopeless for them. Yeah. Especially in the church, especially when they're writing you, they're messaging you, they're asking for help. We can say, well, it's your fault because you didn't ask for help. But then when people reach out to us, we can't roll our eyes and be like, oh, they always need help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta be careful.
We need reform in that area. I mean, there's a lot of areas in the modern church that we need, or Western church, I'll say that we need reform in. And that's one of them, right? It's just committing to people. That's really what it comes down to, is committing to people. And it's frustrating because people will mess up and they will deal with the same thing over and over. And it's like, but like committing to walking with them. Because like some people will use the excuse like, well, Jesus said, shake the dust off your feet, whatever. Well, no, he's talking about people that reject you. Well, you reject my advice. Well, he's talking about his message. He's not, you know what I mean? He's not talking about your message. Like there's a different thing. And like, because you see Peter messing up. All the disciples are just messing up constantly. And, 3.5 years later or whatever, Jesus is still there, to them. And we mess up. It's essentially the same way the disciples. And so generations and generations later, he's still there committing to us and pursuing us. And so for people that do have a desire to live for Jesus and a desire to grow in their faith, like we don't give up on them just because they don't grow at the rate that because their growth isn't really important to us at that point. What's important is that we don't have to deal with it anymore. So we're happy as long as somebody else is dealing with it, as long as we got to, whatever. But again, it contributes to this weird environment of where every man for himself. We sing together, worship together, laugh together, but we don't cry together. We when we cry together, I don't mean, we're all crying about the same thing. What I mean is this person's hurt, so I'm hurt. I'm adopting their issues and whatever. And because of this, we see a lot of ministers, and me and Simon talk a lot off air about this. It's like different ministers and stuff, like just having breakdowns and suffering, and like that's not okay. Like that should not be happening. But it's because of this toxic environment that we've created in churches and stuff, And so everybody's blessed, everybody's highly favored, everybody's claiming healing, and they're literally dying mentally or physically or whatever. Like confront the issue, and it's not just, well, I claimed it. I declared. Well, you don't make declarations. That's not, you declare what God has said already. That's not your declaration. It's Him. So you don't make those decisions. It's your job to trust in Him. And that's a scary place because you lose control and you're giving Him control. You trust in Him and trust in what He's put in your life and the people that are there. It's a tough thing to do, but it requires faith. Ironically, faith isn't just telling God what to do, trying to force God. It's not. It's not telling God what to do at all. Like trying to tell Him when He's going to do, what He's going to do it, and because you want it and you see what's best, but your sight is limited, so you don't understand, how He's working for the greater good through something so terrible and long term. And so, like, really requires trust and faith in Him to patiently walk with people through these things. Yes, definitely pray for healing and restoration every day and immediately, even like we want it. But when it doesn't happen, we don't give up or accuse a person or guilt ourselves into thinking we don't have any faith. It's just a tough thing, and it's really eating a lot of people. I have so many ministers and missionaries and pastors with so much potential that their careers have been ended by stuff like this. Pastors that have committed suicide the past year, well-known pastors. Like, well-off, well-known, popular authors and whatever have killed themselves. So it's a very serious, thing that needs to be changed. Like there needs to be, not changed, it needs to be addressed. Like why can we confess anything else? Why can people confess about their pornography addiction, but they can't, and they confess about all these other sins, but you can't say, I'm struggling mentally with something. And now, like you said, I don't think anymore people aren't going to write you off. Like 10 years ago, you would just they would like even rebuked in some circles. But like now it's like, oh, we'll pray for you, or praying hands emojis in in a text message or whatever. It's just not okay. So we got to change that. All right. Well, I guess that's the end. I don't know. I think this is probably a conversation that'll come up again at some point. It's especially listening back to you, be like, oh, I thought I said, or I should have said, or I wish I said, or, this or whatever. But this is something super important. Super important. So I don't know. I imagine at some point we'll come back to it, or it'll probably come up again next week. I don't know what next week's topic is, but I'm sure it'll pop in somehow because of me. Yeah, it's me.
Yes.
But anyways, thank you guys for listening. It's been longer than usual today, but I feel like it's a good conversation, a necessary one. Anything to add?
No.
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you for watching. We will catch you next time. We love you and appreciate you. Provecho.